Today, we're looking at a yellow ink by Akkerman, Dutch Masters number 3. Still not pronouncing them. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around to the part you're most interested in. Or, if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You could also follow me on Instagram, and if you like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Platinum 3776 with a broad nib, wrote with it for a day, and took my notes for this video. For the first writing sample, I use Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. There are additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form because I was really just saying, go ahead and let's try the whole Dutch Master series. Here's an ink that is overlooked, that has a really good ability to be read, despite what you might think of it. I'm going to go ahead and start by putting out what is my notes that I take. And the thing is, it's nowhere near as hard to read as you really expect. I am shocked. And this is an ink that is missed out by many people. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Gele 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Gele medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Gele extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and yes, it's giving shading. It's got dark areas like Akkerman, less dark areas like Oker. Really quite nice. It's beautiful shading. I'm really taken back each time I've gotten to use this. The extra fine is much darker than the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it does offer a beautiful, beautiful shading. Look at the word brown. Starts dark, goes light. Fox starts light, goes dark. It is just gorgeous. The shading that's occurring here where it's going from yellow to orange, and it's not painful on my eyes. 6 seconds to dry. Now the medium didn't do as well. The medium has no feather spread, halo sheen. The shade is there. It's not coming through as well. I got a feeling the pen was just writing really dry that day. Brown does have a dark letter in it. Fox starts dark, gets light, gets dark. 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows plenty of color variation, and we do get plenty of color variation. Here's the hardest time reading it to me. Tomoe River, no bleeding, and you know what? No ghosting, but it's a yellow ink. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 10 seconds to dry. The medium, same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no real color variation, and we didn't get any in the writing. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, only spots of shading. The N is a little bit darker, the X is a bit darker, the S in jumps a little bit darker, the he of the is a bit darker. 6 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, and only spots of shading coming through. Like the he and the lazy, the does a very nice back and forth. Dog starts dark and gets light. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show plenty of color variation. We are getting some color variation in the writing. I just think that this is going to be a case that the better papers for this ink are not always the papers people run to on fountain pens. I agree with Vita that we learn a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, immediately put it in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And if you look really closely, you see this very light peachy color in the bottom that pushes its way up, and then we get this very bright yellow. It's that peachy tone at the bottom that is really giving us the ability to go ahead and get nice shading with this. Without it, this would be a horrible ink. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And if it wasn't for the D on the filter paper, we probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between them at all. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it did remarkably well. I am really shocked by how well this did with the highlighter. It went from an extra fine to a fine. It didn't blow out. It's not unreadable. I would use it, absolutely. Now I have to go ahead and address those purpley marks all over it. Obviously transfer from the paper towel because I'm a filthy pig and don't always have a brand new paper towel for each one that I do, and I wasn't paying as much attention as I should. Looking at the water, we do see that it's really being lifted off out of the way, but we've got this orangey tone still left behind and not coming out. Now, look just up and to the left of that purpley blotch, and you can see where the white of the paper from the pen flush is coming through. When I blotched it, you see that the pen flush kind of squirted out to the left. So as it just ran over, that spot just up there is where the pen flush got to sit for 30 seconds, and we're really seeing the white of the paper. Plus, you get to see how fast the flush is getting this out. There's no need to use 1/3 bleach solution, although it does completely obliterate it from the page. I test viscosity or flow by using a tilt test that I've linked in this video. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Akkerman's Dutch Masters number 3 has a viscosity of 2.39, making it normal. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. I find this by using my writing samples that were done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Akkerman's Dutch Masters number 3 has an average dry time of 9 seconds, making this a pretty fast drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Akkerman Dutch Masters number 3, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a really nice blue Birmingham Pen Company's Grandview Avenue Midnight Horizon. The second writing sample is done on TWSBI, Monocoque, and Apicacidi paper. Here we see it on TWSBI notebook paper. Now on TWSBI paper we get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine, which was writing quite wet that day, is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The medium, that for some reason started writing drier, is a lighter, the extra fine took 5 seconds to dry. The medium, that's for some reason started to write drier, is a noticeably lighter tone than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both do show us a bunch of color variation, but we're really not getting it in the writing here. Monocoque paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. I sure hope this is coming across well for you on camera. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and it has gorgeous shading. Yellow to orange to yellow to orange to yellow to orange to yellow to... It's going back and forth all the way across that stub writing. It's really very, very nice. The extra fine is a slightly darker tone than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and still Amazing shading going on here. The brown starts darker, gets lighter, gets darker. Fox starts dark, gets light, gets dark. Jumps, starts dark, gets light throughout. Beautiful. And 5 seconds to dry. Now the medium is even lighter than the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it is showing some very nice shading. The K in quick is much darker than the rest of the word. Brown starts darker, gets lighter. Fox starts darker, gets lighter, gets darker. Nice shading throughout, and it's, again, not as nice on camera, but in person, this is not painful to read. I had a backup pen. I had a Pilot Custom 823 with their blue-black to take my notes for this video because I was expecting to not be able to read it. But I was able to read this yellow on that paper without any trouble. I think this looks much better on the heavier Tomoe River paper than it does on any other. I just don't have any for samples. 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show us plenty of color variation, and we get it. Apica notebooks. Apica CD notebooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it does offer some very nice shading. Starts darker, gets lighter, gets darker. Can't ask for more than that. It's beautiful here. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and still plenty of very nice shading. Darker to lighter to darker, all in quick. Brown starts darker, gets lighter. Fox starts lighter, gets darker. I feel like I'm going to be the only one that likes this yellow ink. I think it's gorgeous. Let me know in the comments if you like this, because I think this is amazing. 6 seconds to dry. The medium is even lighter than the extra fine, with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and yes, it offers some shading spots, like Fox starts lighter, gets darker. Jumps starts lighter, gets darker. Quick starts dark, gets light, gets dark. Beautiful. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows plenty of color variation, and we get plenty of color variation, and that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Akkerman Dutch Masters number 3? On the page, it is not so bright that you can't read it. It doesn't hurt your eyes, but I would not use it for a whole page of writing because it's a little too intense for that. But as a secondary color on the page, it is absolutely fantastic. I am finding a lot of yellow inks that I can really enjoy, and this is one of them. So what nib and pen would give you the best writing experience? Honestly, to make sure that you can read it very easily, you want to use a broad, wet pen. The fine pens are just too thin of lines, and they're going to make your eyes hurt, even for smaller amounts of writing. Like I said, I'm enjoying this, but you do need to make sure that you set your conditions so that when you look back at your notes, you don't have to find it kind of hidden like a needle in a haystack. Yellow has become a very surprising color to me, and this one is awesome. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.